My name is Richard Rowe, and I am on a spiritual journey. To answer the question, what does it mean to leave my physical body, let's start with some basic definitions. Most of us agree that we have a consciousness plus a physical body. Instead of using the word consciousness, I'll focus in on the reported experiences of many near-death experiencers and use the word soul. Next, for my physical body and the part of me that keeps me functioning in the physical world, I use the word ego. Thus, I am an ego plus a soul. I can also say myself is comprised of an ego plus a soul. Now I'll apply these terms. I became a self when my ego combined with my soul. Then I was born. From that moment, I collected life experiences as I lived my life. My self-lifetime becomes the sum of my lifetime experiences and the interactions with others until my self's death. When I die, my soul separates from myself, leaving my ego behind. In other words, the physical part of me dies while my soul separates from my body. Before we move on from this diagram, there are additional elements I want to point out that will be explained in more detail during future videos. The first is the disk image in the cloud. It represents the collection of lifetime memories and moments for each soul that are collected and stored for reference during a life review or for soul study between lifetimes. Now shift your attention to the list under the heading Governing Laws of a Lifetime. I have found this list to be some of the key factors governing our earthly lifetime experience. You might say these rules are shared by all of us experiencing this incarnation together. This includes free will, in other words, our ability to make choices during a lifetime, the objective of achieving balance during a physical lifetime, where each of us works towards overcoming earthly challenges to balance our soul with our ego during a physical lifetime. Past life memory equals 0 represents the veil keeping us from recalling past lives and the true nature of our soul. In future videos, we'll see how putting our ego aside can allow us to access our soul memories. Causality, or the relationship between cause and effect, represents the life paths and choices we make during a lifetime, and how the choices of others can affect our lifetime experience. And finally, purpose, which relates to one or more life purposes we want to experience during a lifetime. When my soul leaves my body, a second question emerges: where does my soul go? Based on reports from near-death experiencers, the soul moves into higher spatial dimensions. To understand what this means, let's briefly explore the concept of spatial dimensions. We live life on Earth in 3 dimensions, or 3 spatial dimensions. Physical objects have width, length, and depth. To understand what that means, consider a line with only width. The line has only one spatial dimension. Consider a square with width plus length. The square has 2 spatial dimensions. Now consider a cube with width plus length plus depth. The cube has 3 spatial dimensions. For this video, I exclude time as a dimension since I think of time as the mechanism that moves us from one moment to the next. I believe time acts differently in higher dimensions. Now let's apply this information to the near-death experience. When my soul leaves my body or self, many near-death experiencers tell us they journey into a different realm. It feels like a heavenly realm to them. Since this realm is not in our 3-dimensional world, let's say these near-death experiencers have moved into a higher dimension, perhaps a realm with 4 spatial dimensions. To define what an object with 4 spatial dimensions might look like, Charles Howard Hinton's 1904 book, The Fourth Dimension, describes what he coined as a tesseract. While the diagram is helpful to understand the concept of 4 spatial dimensions, it's probably impossible to visualize an actual 4th dimension from our 3rd dimension. It's even more challenging to describe higher dimensions using existing languages developed to describe life in our 3-dimensional world. This challenge was addressed in 1884 by Edwin Abbott in his story Flatland. It's a fictional story about dimensions where a 2-dimensional creature named Square is pulled into a 3-dimensional world by a creature named Sphere. Rather than retelling that story here, I refer you to a video Dr. Carl Sagan made years ago. I'll leave a link to that video. I highly recommend watching it. Since we can prove there are 3 dimensions by observing the world around us, I'll refer to the first-hand experiences reported by near-death experiencers and say there must be more than 3 dimensions. But I'm going to go one step further and add in additional first-hand experiences gleaned from hypnotherapy, trance, remote viewing, and out-of-body experiences. I conclude I exist simultaneously in all dimensions with the intention of my higher self to experience physical life in this moment. Future videos will get more in the details of those topics. The next video will apply the terms just introduced and step through the common features of the near-death experience.